the biggest advice that I could give is make the barrier of entry for you to get in the game. I think it's pretty freaking easy to get to 10K a month or 50K a month in an agency if you know the fundamentals. The two biggest levers that I found to make money for businesses really fast is one, or number two is. So once I discovered that, you don't struggle for clients. To go from like 50K to 150K a month, it only took us 90 days.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm super excited to be here with Thisu, who's kind enough to sit down, share some time and some gems with us. He went about growing his agency a very different way than most people. And I love his story because he took some time to think instead of just following the crowd, and it ended up with some really cool results. So Thisu, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, man. Excited to dive into things.
Yeah. So take us back for those that don't know you. How old were you when you started in the marketing entrepreneurship game, and what did those first couple of years look like?
Yeah, so I started when I was 18, right? So right about when I turned 19, actually. And I just dropped out of college at that point. Like, just for some context, I was in college for about a year and a half trying to learn chiropractics. Didn't have the grades for it at all. Like, I learned pretty quickly. I think my grade point average was like 2.8. So, and like the minimum required was like 3.8 to get into chiro, which is like super competitive at that time. So I dropped out. I got into sales initially because I didn't have any credentials or anything. So I got into sales. Then from there, I realized that the big pain point that people had was they didn't know how to generate leads. And then I got into the whole online marketing space, started reading Russell Brunson's books and, Frank Kern's courses and things like that. And then from there, I started my first agency where I worked with fitness influencers, which is really funny because the first niche that I went after was not local businesses. It was fitness influencers with big ass audiences, right?
Yeah.
And the way I reached out to them was I would send them personal videos saying that, hey, you have this big audience, because at the time they would have these big audiences but they didn't promote whatsoever. Like, I don't know if you know, like, a lot of big fitness influencers, they're really good at content, they have like hundreds of thousands of followers but nothing on the monetization side. So I just would go into them and build like basic landing pages, funnels, product launches, and I only got a percentage of revenue. So I started there, and then the big break was like I got a couple of good case studies from really big fitness influencers. And for some context for your audience too, I didn't have any case studies at the time when I reached out to these fitness influencers, but because I came in with an offer where I only got a percentage of revenue, like, they're very open to help, right? Because everyone else was just coming in like saying, pay me up front and things like that. Like, these guys needed help. So I started there. And then once I got those case studies and those traction from these big influencers, things kind of started to take off. I had a little bit of credibility. Then I started working with like other online coaches, e-commerce brands, and started scaling things up from there. So that's kind of like the 60-second story of things, I guess.
Okay. Love it. So rewind a little bit. How long, like, what was the period of you're studying Russell Brunson's books and Frank Kern's courses, and like, I assume living with your parents, like not earning much money, to like, okay, I got my first fitness influencer client. How long did it take you to get the first one?
Really quickly. So the first course that I actually took was in the marketing space, was Funnel Builder Secrets. And that was for like, I'm in Canada, right? So like that currency hurt at the time. Like, I think it was like it was like 3,997.
Oh,
And
wow.
like my credit card had like a limit of like $1,500. So I remember like I had to go to my dad. And I was like, please, like, because I had the money, I just didn't have like the limit to pay for it. So I remember my dad, like, I used his credit card and stuff, and he was like super like, what the hell are you buying for like $4,000 like this? And like, those pages back in the day for like Russell Brunson, it's like they're so sketchy. They're like one page, he's never seen anything like that. But yeah, like, in terms of that, one thing I did pretty fast is I always implemented relatively quickly. So I think like that course, it took me about 2 weeks to go through it and just understand the fundamentals. And like 2 weeks after that, I was reaching out to clients, right? And exactly what I did is I compiled a list, like the whole Dream 100 strategy, where I basically just took about a list of 200 fitness influencers at the space. And all I did is I sent them personal emails and that had like a personal video from me. And I still remember the subject line, which was like business opportunity in brackets, right? And then it was like super sketchy. And it was like, I just shot you this personal video. And it was like me pitching them like, hey, I want to partner with you. You're leaving money on the table. You have this big audience and you're not promoting. And from there, I think we got like the first client booked, Mike Rosa, shout out to Anabolic Aliens, in like the first week of doing outreach, right? And I had no freaking idea what I was doing at the time, right? Like, it was just pure confidence.
And what did you sell for them? Like, did you tell them to put together a course and you just made
a
funnel? Or?
Yeah. So we did. So I actually took like another course I was doing at the time was, do you know Jeff Walker's product launch formula?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's like basically teaches you how to do product launches. And I was just like, well, I didn't have an audience at the time, and I saw all the fitness influencers had audiences. So I was like, okay, why don't we just do product launches for influencers, right? So that's what we did is we'd basically create their offer and like launch it to their existing audience because they wouldn't have any products at the time. They just relied on like sponsorships. Right. So
Mm,
that was the offer. One crazy thing too is like we process the payments for the clients on the product launch through our Stripe account for them. And
nice.
then I would bank transfer them, which is horrible. Don't do that if you're watching this. Like, do not do that. I did that with like 3 influencers. It's like and that goes to show you like that niche that I was going after was fitness influencers. They didn't have a lot of, I guess, like no real business. Not that they weren't business owners, like they were content people first, right? Like if I'd
Yeah.
gone to you, you're not going to let me use my own payment processor,
No.
right? Right. So like, but like that just goes to show like those guys, like they just cared about content. But yeah, I did like that's what we do is we'd basically do product launches for them, and we get a cut of the revenue that we brought in for them. That was what we did.
Okay. But did it take them forever to build the course? Like how
Dude,
long
yes.
from when you reached out to when you actually launched? That's
Yeah.
my concern there.
Yeah. It was not a scalable model on that side,
Okay.
right? So that's why we pivoted to people who already had existing offers. But when it started initially, like that process took about a month and a half. Like we ran an
Mm,
ask campaign to their audience, like figuring out like what problems they faced. Then from there, like we outlined like a mini course, right? And then the good thing though is we built it with their audience. Like we built it live. Like we didn't say, hey, build all these training modules. We're like we got an outline of what their audience wanted, and then it was like a 6-week coaching program that we built like live with their audience.
I
So they
see.
would pay up front, but we would like, and it was funny because the first round that we did for our client Mike, he didn't get a lot of sales or anything like that, and like we were like we pretended to be clients of his in the online coaching program, right? And like me and my buddy Kai at the time, right, who's still like a partner to this day, he's basically like we were both on the call and like we were like pretending to be like clients going through like the workup program with like 8 other dudes, and yeah, like it was just the humble beginnings, but it was like, but now like
Love it.
he built off of that, right? Now he's absolutely crushing it, and this was like back in 2019, so yeah.
Okay. So did it ever occur to you like, oh, I wanted to be a chiropractor. I should start a chiropractor agency? Or why did you
Oh.
go online?
Honestly, I think it's just because I was pretty into the gym at the time, right? Like
Okay.
I was, and I didn't really have any passion towards like Cairo or anything like that. It was just I don't know about like your experience in high school or anything like that. It was just like I didn't know what to do, and I was like, Cairo sounds cool because I was into sports, right? I didn't have any affinity to chiropractors or anything like that. I was
Yeah.
more into the gym at the time, and like I think that big click that I had was when I remember I was just looking at these fitness influencers audience and I was like, man, there's like hundreds of thousands of people in their audience and they're not doing anything. Like they're just relying on sponsors. And once I went through
Mm,
Russell's courses and product launch formula, I was like, oh, like I think they're leaving money on the table. I don't know till I actually go through and like, I validate this, but I had enough of a hunch that I felt comfortable reaching out to them and at least trying the theory.
yeah. The thing that I love about it is that it's like at the end of the customer journey, so you don't actually have to be that good at marketing.
100%.
Like you literally just have to be like, here's a janky page, like check out and I'll teach you
Yep.
fitness and take a percentage of the
Oh yeah.
revenue.
It is
Whereas
low.
it's
Go ahead.
actually pretty difficult to produce results when you're starting out at the very, very beginning of the customer journey for people. Like that's tough as a beginner agency
Yeah,
owner.
100%. Like, when going after influencers, the ones that actually had audiences and followers, like it was so easy to get them results. It's not because we were special; it was because of who they were, right?
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
had so much warm traffic, they had disposable assets, but they
Yeah.
never made an offer. So we'd come in and like make one
Mm,
offer, make the money, and they thought we were like God, right? And like it was just because they were just such an
yeah.
easy client to get results for. They have their cons, right? But like yeah, but they were like you said, like we were at the end of the customer journey. They did all the hard work. They built goodwill for like 5 years, and we just tapped into that
Yeah.
for like one campaign. And they're like, "Wow, this guy's so smart." And I was like, "You don't even know, man."
Yeah. No, I'm not smart. You're just dumb. Oh
Exactly.
dear.
Exactly. Yo, hopefully they're not watching this. Yo, Mike, if you're
Okay.
watching this, like you're amazing. Like,
Yeah. I don't mean it like that. You know what I
yeah, yeah,
mean. Okay, so you work with how many fitness
yeah.
influencers, and then what happens
Yeah, so
next?
I worked with so yeah, this is what would be really helpful for like just beginner SMMA owners, right? So it's like I worked for free, well, basically a percentage of sales initially. I worked with the first fitness influencer, which was Zach Perna. Then from there, I got a video test, not Zach Perna, Mike Rosa, right, from Anabolic Aliens. I got a video testimonial from him. then once I got that video testimonial, I used that video testimonial to reach back out to more fitness influencers. Once I had that social proof, it was so much easier for me to get clients, right? Because they were like,
Mm.
because the other thing too is like that one case study that I had from Mike, he had like 500,000 subscribers. So like it was a good case study for me to start with, right? So like the moment I started
Yeah.
outreaching again to fitness influencers, I had credibility. So then from there, I ran into Zach
100%.
Smith, who was based in Gold Coast. He had a pretty big audience and followers as well. I got him like 43 clients in 3 days. And then from there, I used his testimonial to then reach back out to all the Australian fitness influencers. And then I landed Zach Perna, who's a Gymshark athlete, who's like big boy. And then, yeah, like that's all I needed in the fitness space, where I was like, I just had so much credibility, and I never like was into fitness, or as in like I wasn't like a personal trainer or anything like that. It's just like that's just the clients that I went after, and I was like just had such good credibility and proof. And then from there, like honestly, in hindsight, I should have just stuck with fitness influencers and personal trainers. The reason I didn't is I had a false belief around the niche and how big it was. Like I thought it was super small. Like I was like, there's only like a handful of these guys, but if I was to do things like I would have probably partnered with them more and like figured out like big products that we could partner together on that we get a percentage of. Like look at Prime with like KSI and Logan Paul. It's a freaking $1 billion company,
Yeah.
right? Like we could have gone in with like I was reaching out to like Christian Guzman, Steve Cook, all those guys at the time before they had anything, right? As in like they had online
Mm.
products, but I was so young. Like I didn't see that opportunity at the time. So I got distracted,
Yeah.
right? And I started, but from there, once I had those case studies, then I started getting into like online coaches and like reach, because I loved Frank Kern. He was like my idol at the time, right? I went through like all of his courses. So then I started reaching out to like all the people who won like 2 Comma Club awards and stuff like that in the coaching space, doing that same strategy and getting
Mhm.
clients from there. But yeah, that was like that process. I don't know if that answered the question.
No, yeah, that's great. I realized that I forgot to ask. You did Dan Locke's
Hell yeah.
program for a second before you got the fitness
Yeah,
influencers.
yeah.
Is
So
that right?
like again, college dropout, no idea what you're gonna do. I see like this. I was following Stephen James. I think his name's Product Life Mastery or something like that. He's like this bald dude. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
You know who I'm talking about, right? Um,
yeah, yeah,
so I was watching his content, and like I remember he's just like, all right, we're gonna be doing a live event with Dan Locke. And I didn't know a webinar was a sales pitch at the time. Like I remember I was like, I told my
yeah.
mom, I was like, don't freaking bother me. Like I'm going to a live event tonight. Like this shit's serious. Right? It was a
Live
live
event.
event, like real value, right? And like I get on this call, and like I was just like, I ain't getting shit, but like this is like very motivational, because like he's just like getting rid of all the false beliefs and showing how it's possible for you to like
Mm,
make $2,000 in commissions talking over the phone and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh my god, like I'm like imagining like the penthouse and like all that stuff in my mind at the
mhm.
time. And he gets to the price, because I thought it was free up until this point, because he said it was a free event. I didn't know like they were gonna pitch anything at the end, and then like they're like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, this shit's like $2,000 to get in. I was like, what the hell, right? And then like I remember going downstairs, and I told my sister about this because I didn't have 2 grand, and she's just like, I have a credit card, right? So shout out to her. She literally she gives me her credit card to buy the program on her money. And the sales page at the time was the jankiest sales page you'd ever seen. Like it was before he had like any credibility. So it's like this white page with like a red text headline that says like 7 spots left or something like that. And it's just like either $19.97 up front or like 3 payments of $9.97. And I was like, yeah, let's take the payment plan. She's like, are you sure about this? I was like, I think so. But I remember, yeah,
Don't you wish?
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt. I wish I had the forethought when I bought my first course to be like, look at me. I'm in front of my computer and like show what the sales page looked like back then. Because you keep referencing that. It's so
dude, it
true.
was,
Like they've definitely gotten
yeah,
nicer
it
over the
was
last couple of years.
crazy. It was like a white, yeah, it was brutal. But from there, like
Yeah.
that was like in terms of mental beliefs that were broken and ROI that I got from a course at the time, that was the highest that I had, because I
Yeah.
think the first course that you get, like especially when you're starting out, what you're really paying for is breaking down false beliefs that you had in your mind. Like the biggest ROIs you're going to have are going to be things that you didn't even know were possible, that someone else just like cracks down for you. That, at least that was for me. Like I was
Yeah.
like, oh, like I can
Mm.
make money online. Like I can talk to business owners, and as long as I learn sales, like I can get a commission from it. Like I didn't know these things, and there was proof in the
Mhm.
group of people doing it. So Dan Locke gets a lot of shit right
Yeah.
now, and I think some of it is deserved. Like I think he did some shady stuff, but at least when I first started in that, like it was very helpful for me because I learned sales and I was pretty good at communicating. And immediately from there, like I
Yeah.
could, like that's a whole nother story if you want to get into it in terms of how I got my first sales job, and I basically lied my way into it. That was very sketch. But like I got my first sales job from there. And then I started actually getting commissions, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm never have to go back after this. And that kind of like put my foot in the door to the whole online marketing side.
Okay. Yeah. So we do have to hear that story.
Okay. So this is pretty bad, man. I mean, like, no, it's not that bad. It's just like, so I remember there was are you familiar with like high ticket closing as in like HTC at all, or how it kind of worked?
I know the CoffeeZilla
Takedown.
like,
Yeah.
thing that happened where basically everybody just joined, and then their only job was to get more people to join
Right.
that particular program. But I talked to a guy at the High Level Summit that used to work for, he was like, Dan's right-hand man's right-hand
Right.
man, I think. And he was like, it wasn't as bad as it sounds. Like, yes, there's a lot of bad things going on, but like, he's a good business guy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
extent,
Okay. Got it.
my
So
knowledge.
like basically how it would work is they would have, once you would learn the skills of like learning how to close, they would have job opportunities that would come up. Like people would post jobs for high ticket closers at the time. So I remember there was this job
Okay.
post that went up in a group for like, it was like $500 to $1,000 commissions, 3 to 5 inbound calls a day, minimum 5 years experience. I was like, fuck, like I definitely don't have that. Right. So I remember I found the number of the company that was advertised, which was Fire Gang Dental Marketing. Shout out to Adam Zilko. I definitely learned on his dime and cost him a lot of deals when I started out. But anyways, like when I remember I sent them an email saying like, hey, just saw your job opportunity coming in. Like, let me know if there's still spots. And then I remember Kim, I forgot her last name, which is the operations manager at the time, replied back and said, she was really kind. She's like, okay, like let's hop on like a quick call, like let's chat. And then I hopped on a call with her from there, and then she kept asking me like questions about like my experience, and I said like I just kept dodging the question over and over again. Like I just kept saying like, yes, like I cannot talk about it, it's confidential, like I cannot say this information because of the previous brands that I worked with, just like classic bullshit like that, to like dodge the question.
Okay.
But like I guess she bid it, I guess, or something like that, right? And then she's just like, all right, like I'll book you in with Adam, like the CEO, right? And then like we had a call, and like Adam's a beast. Like he owns Fire Gang Dental Marketing, and they do multiple millions a year. There's a bunch of interviews up with him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a smart dude. And he got on a call for me, and I honestly think the only reason he hired me was just because he saw maybe himself at a younger stage in me, because I was just hungry at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember he was just like, he did some role plays with me, and I was just like, just making shit up, But I had the tenacity, and I think he saw that I like would actually like put in the work, and I was like younger. But he hired me from there. I had no credibility. I did not have 5 years of experience, but I weaseled my way in. I lied to their operations manager, and somehow Adam still hired me, which I guess ultimately falls on him for doing that. But like, yeah, from there I was in that company for like, I mean, I got fired from that company because I couldn't close, right? Like I wasn't at KPI, which like, I learned from there though. Like I learned at least like the beginning of sales, but that was that process. I don't recommend doing that, but yeah, that's quite.
But it goes to show, like, I don't know, being an entrepreneur is just being willing to kind of put yourself in those situations. A lot of people would have looked at that and been like, well, it's not for me. I need to have 5 years of experience.
Yeah.
But you got your first job out of it. So did you end up doing other high ticket closing jobs after that, or you went straight into the fitness?
No, from there I basically went right into the fitness side of things, right? I mean, I got into, like I said, Funnel Builder Secrets from Russell Brunson. I actually bought that from, I think it was like the 10X presentation that he had with Grant Cardone. Like he had, I don't know if you're familiar with it. He basically, he did like 3 million in 90 minutes, right? Yeah, exactly. That presentation. And then I remember that was posted on YouTube, that recording, right? With like still the pitch, and like, I went through the Epiphany Bridge story and all that stuff, and like I was getting sold, and I was like, this is the craziest shit ever. And like that, from there I was like, I need to get this, because he's like, you're one funnel away from getting everything you ever fucking wanted. And I was just like, damn right I am. Like I got no money, like let's give this a shot, right? So like, that's when I got my dad's credit card. Luckily I had enough commissions from Adam at the time, like from the dental marketing company, to be able to invest in that.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember watching Russell Brunson, that 90-minute presentation in college. Like I was supposed to be doing homework. I was like in the library, like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
Like literal hero worship when you get started.
right.
And then like you get more and more jaded as you go along. But
That is
yeah.
very accurate. That is very he puts you in a trance, man. He
Yeah.
puts you in a trance.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Um, okay, so skipping kind of maybe not the whole rest of
Right.
your journey, but I want to dive into some like real gems for the agency
Yep.
owners listening. Um, you transfer into normal online coaches and you're focusing on helping them sell more of what they're already selling, or what was the offer there?
Yeah. So when I worked with, it was, well, there's actually one little part after I worked with the online fitness coaches. Is what I did then is
Mhm.
I focused primarily on organic, and I created like a content agency for a brief period at that point.
Oh,
Right. So,
okay.
cause like my hypothesis was that like all these influencers were leaving money on the table organically. So then from there, like it was crazy. Like what we do is we'd post 21 short form clips per month for a person for like $1,000 a month. It was just so cheap for us to do it. Yeah, it
Wow.
was crazy. It was
Okay.
insane. Right. And like, again, we landed big. Like, do you know Mike Dillard from like Self-Made Man by any chance? Like he was like an OG internet
Mhm.
marketing dude. Yeah, like
Wow.
he was
Okay.
like our first client onto it. And this was like 2019 when short form content, like an IG clip with a headline and text was like fucking revolutionary. You know what I mean? Like that was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
insane. Right. And like we were onto it. And I remember with Mike, we got him on as a client for $1,000 a month doing these short form
Uh,
content edits. Like we would script out his long form videos, and then from there we just cut them down and post them on his social platforms. And we started getting referrals left and right from people. Like he just kept referring us a bunch of other people in the space, right? And then what's really funny is he got on a call with me and my partner at the time, Kai. He gets on a call with us, and he's just like, guys, like, I think we can do a joint venture here, right? He just told us over email, right? And he's just like, we can easily blow this
wow.
up.
Okay.
And like we're broke as a joke. Like we don't have any fucking money, right? And like we don't know what we're doing. And here we are, the guy that
What's
go ahead.
sorry, just what's your profit on 1K a
Dude,
month? Like, do you
zilch. Okay,
guys have
dude, we
editors?
had one editor who was my friend P Money. His name is Pamath, another Sri Lankan dude. He was like my friend
Uh-huh.
growing up, and he was getting paid more than us. We weren't taking anything out of the business, like, because basically all the profit goes to him to like edit the clips, right? So
Mhm.
like he was edited, and yeah, that dude's funny. But anyways, yeah, we weren't making any profit on it, right? And like everything we
Okay.
did make would go right back into courses and education. Like that was one thing we did
Okay.
right, was everything that we made would just go right back
Smart.
into education and like courses. And then it all compounded towards the end where we were able to scale really fast. But from
Mhm.
there, like your question was how much profit. I didn't make any profit.
You were just about to go into the
Oh
JV
yeah,
that he
yeah. So
wanted
he
to do.
gets on a call, right? He gets on a call with us, and he's like, I think he expects us to be a little bit bigger, or like. And at the time, dude, like my office looked like an ISIS setup. Like I had like
Wow.
this like janky chair in the background, like this like weird ass calendar, and like he gets on a call with us, and like he can tell like we're just retarded. Like he just knows, like he like knows we don't know what we're talking about,
Yeah.
like, and we're just really new. And he's just like, yeah, guys, like I can
Uh-huh.
easily get us like 30 clients, and like we can probably do 30K a month onto this like tomorrow, right? If like you want to partner up with this easily. And then we were like crapping our pants, right? Because like 30 grand a month when you're that
Mhm.
age is like revolutionary money. Like you can't even comprehend that. But then I think he
Mhm.
got the feeling really quickly that like we wouldn't be able to fulfill on that, right? Like, and I think he got the feel
Mhm.
because he started asking us questions about our team, and we're like we got a contractor, and like we didn't give any like good answers, and the dude's been in the game for a while, and
Yeah.
he's just like that kind of faded out. We never got a JV with him or anything like that, but he remained as a client. But then we had that content agency for a little bit. We did that for about like a year, right? We didn't really scale that up that far. Like it basically got us to like 5K a month, right? So very small at the time. Like it was nothing. But yeah,
Mhm.
we had that period for about like a year on that side. But then like from
Okay.
there, I don't know if you want to dive into it, but that's when I started essentially. That's when I worked as a marketing manager, right? When I basically worked with Rudy for about like a year and a half at that point,
Okay, yeah.
right? I don't know if you want to dive into that now, but I basically had that.
Yeah, yeah. Give us a brief overview of that. I'm more interested in your agency offer that like
Oh yeah,
blew
yeah.
up,
We'll talk
but
about that.
tell us what you learned from Rudy Maurer that
Yeah.
helped you there.
So I sent him, yeah, like I sent him like a cold loom strategy, where I was just saying like, hey, like here's 5 things you can do to make more money during COVID. And then he watched the video and he's like, hey, not looking to hire a consultant, but if you ever need a job, let me know. And then like at the time, like my agency wasn't making much money, right? And like it took a lot of ego for me to like say yes to that offer because like I want to start my own business, but at the same time I was like, I think I could learn a lot from this guy. And like like Rudy built a lot of agencies already and he had a lot of celebrity clients. So then I worked with him, and just from there I worked with him for about a year and a half as his marketing manager, and I learned so much during that period where like I really do think anyone, if they're starting their agency and they're not getting that much momentum, if you can work for someone who's already had success or knows the ropes at a level, like I think I fast tracked about 5 years worth of progress in about 12 months, probably more than that. Right. Cause like we were spending a lot of money on paid ads. I learned fulfillment. I learned like sales. I learned cause I was just doing everything at that period. Right. And, I was there for about a year and a half. Right. And he basically taught me everything in terms of like how to grow and scale an agency, not directly, but indirectly, just from me seeing it. And I was like, oh, like, I think I can do this. Like I could, and I just was around so much money. Like I was around like big deals that were closing, and I was just like, wow, like, okay, there's like all these false beliefs that were being shattered. And I think the reason like a lot of agency owners can't succeed in the beginning is they just have so much gunk in their mind. Like they don't see the forest through the trees. Like you got to like chop that down as soon as possible. And like the best way to do that is either work for someone else or like learn from someone who's already done that. Right. Like, like if I had gotten, like when I first started out, like, dude, like I know you got a course. If I had bought your course like in the beginning, like or something like that, or someone like an agency specific course, man, I would have saved like 5 fucking years, right? Like way sooner. And I just didn't do that, right? Like an agency specific course. But yeah, I worked with him for about a year and a half, and then I learned. I was like, oh, okay, like because I was always really good at the delivery side. Like I could sell like anything. Like I could sell like at least from like copy and emails and ads. Like that just came naturally to me, and I knew that side. So when I worked with him for about a year and a half, then from there I was just like, okay, like I think I'm ready to like start my own agency. And then from there, like, you want me to go into like how fast I scaled that agency offer? Yeah. So from there, like essentially what I did was I realized that the unique advantage that I had was I realized that I didn't need because I worked with so many different niches at the time. I worked with e-com, I worked with coaches, I worked with freaking SaaS companies, everything, right? I worked with so many different clients. And then I realized that this is like the big moment where all the skills just line up into like one opportunity and you just swing for the fences. But the insight that I had is I didn't necessarily need a niche. What I more cared about was like the characteristics that they had. So I knew if someone was making at least 50K per month in revenue, they had an engaged email list of at least 5,000 prospects, and they were spending at least $5,000 a month on ads, I could get that person results. Like I could go into that person's company and they didn't need to pay me anything out of pocket, and I would find them hidden revenue and I could get a cut of that. Like I just knew that because they like, especially a business owner at that stage, they have so much moving parts going on that they just don't have the time to fix all these little holes. Right. So once I knew that, I made an offer where my offer that I ran on ads was like, we guaranteed a 10x R. I can say the whole offer structure too if you want, but we guaranteed a 10x ROI, and we got paid nothing out of pocket to get started. We only got compensated on the additional revenue that we brought into a company. So it was a crazy irresistible offer. And at this point, I had a bunch of case studies at this point too, from like fitness influencers, online coaches, e-commerce brands that I did work for free with at the time. Right. And like, so I had a bunch of credibility. And then the moment I threw ads to that offer, yeah, it was game over. I mean, we scaled that to over 100 grand a month in like 6 months on paid ads, and then we scaled it way beyond that as well. But it was just like all those raw materials coming together. If you want, I can talk about that offer structure, because that offer structure I think was really unique on how we did that.
Yeah, I'm curious on how did you guarantee the 10x, and then how did you make sure that you didn't get screwed on the back end? Especially with them processing the payments.
Yeah. So how we did it was the offer structure itself was, I knew like all business owners, they want to make more money. Like that desire is always there. The thing that's changing is they're getting more skeptical than ever right now because they've either been burned by one or multiple agencies, but the desire is still there that they want more money. So what I did is the first engagement that I'd have, it was like a taste tester. It was like a 6 to 8 week engagement where it was anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000, depending on the size of the client. But how we do it is they wouldn't pay anything out of pocket to get started. But once we'd make the first $3,000 in additional revenue that directly came from us, we'd bill their credit card on file. So how we'd onboard them and say, hey, don't pay us, pay us a $1 down. So we'd have their credit card on Stripe, right? And then the client would come in, and honestly, because we just took on brands that were doing usually most of them were about $1 million a year in revenue, right? I would send one email out to their list and make my money back. So I would send one email out to their list, make $3 grand, bill their credit card, make my feedback right away, because that was my advantage. It's like I knew I could make money fast, right? And then from there, what I noticed is like, because guaranteeing a 10x on $3,000 is 30 grand over the course of 12 months. It is not hard to do that for a business doing at least $500,000 a year in revenue. But the business also doesn't want just 30 grand. What it more so cares about is like, they just want someone they can trust, that they know that can deliver results. So that initial 6-week engagement was for me to just show that I could make you more than my fee, right? Because like, if they just got a taste of that, my real goal was to sell them into my back end, which was reoccurring services, right? Where I got them into like, I had two back end offers. One was ads management, and one was where we'd come in as like a fractional chief marketing officer for them, right? But that was the goal, was to get them into those reoccurring services that were like $3,000 to $5,000 a month, right? Because that was the play. It's like, get them in initially with like a taste of what we can do for you, where the barrier of entry is so low, right? But once they get that trust, it's so easy to upsell them into reoccurring services that they pay us up front, right? So once I discovered that bit there, like, you don't struggle for clients. If you can go into a business and you can just be like, hey, let me make you some money first, they're going to like, they haven't seen that before. And then if you can deliver, you don't even need to deliver 30 grand, right? And for context, our average client made 90 grand in additional revenue in the first 90 days, right? Because of who they were, right? Like for e-commerce brands, it was so funny. They would just promote really heavily during Black Friday, right? So like they would have these huge promotions during Black Friday and Christmas and not send any emails or run any promotions for the rest of the year. So when we take on an e-com brand, we'd be like, all right, dude, like, let's just look at the promotion they ran in Black Friday and just rerun that with like a different reason why, make our feedback immediately, right? And then just get them on as a client. So that was the play. Like once we discovered that, getting clients was so easy. Like it was on easy mode, shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah. Okay. So what was the first e-com? You would resend their Black Friday email. Same thing for coaches. Like what was the secret in that first email?
The thing with e-commerce was very easy because, okay, so e-commerce is really easy because they have usually big customer databases and their cash cycle is immediate. It's, you send an email, they make money. The con with that is their margins and their economics is harder, which is why I think a lot of people don't go after e-commerce. But yeah, so for e-commerce, like what we do is we wouldn't just do ads. We would do everything holistically. Like we would tweak their ads. We would do their emails. Like we would kind of come in and like that offer that we had, that first 6-week engagement was like a revenue partner. Like the whole offer and the pitch was like, partner with us for 6 weeks. And over that 6 weeks, we're going to figure out how much additional revenue we can make into your company. Right. Like, and then we just basically look at all the levers we could pull to make the money. So for e-commerce, like it was really easy because most of them would send emails like once a week or once a month. And the first thing we'd do is like, all right, let's send emails 3 times a week to your database of 50,000 contacts. Like they'll make money, right? For online coaches, it was pretty similar onto that side. It's just like we would run a couple different immediate, like, are you familiar with like 9-word emails? Like, it's like, hey, are you still looking to lose weight? Yeah, things like that to reach out to their old leads, or we'd run like a special promotion on their top selling product, right? Things like that, like the basics of online marketing, right? Just to get like that initial cash flow that was coming in so they could kind of get a taste. Because really the 2 biggest levers that I found to make money for businesses really fast is, one, making more offers. Like a lot of them aren't making enough offers to their existing database. Or number 2 is dialing in their follow-up. Like their follow-up is usually horribly neglected. So if a lead comes in, there's like 2 follow-up emails that come in, and then we'll just turn that to 10, 20 and actually get their setters to do the real work that's required. And like that way they're maximizing the efficiency from the spend they're already getting. And those levers are a lot faster than cracking cold traffic on paid ads. So like that 6-week engagement, we'd come in and just do the fundamentally obvious shit that makes them more money that they're not doing. That's like, we kind of talk about like, we're not going for a home run. We're just getting singles, just like single, right? And then it's just like, if I can get a 10% bump in your conversion rate, a 10% bump in your AOV, 10% bump in your retention, right? That's like 30% across, right? So once they got a taste of that, then I was like, okay, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I know for you, you want to go from 2 mil to 5 mil. That's going to take years to be able to get there. Let's work in our private client group, which is a 12-month engagement. Here are the terms. But they already got value at that point where they trust us.
Very cool. So the 12-month engagement, how much was that?
Yeah, it was about 24 grand a year, right? So they'd pay like 2 grand a month onto it. Okay.
Yeah.
If they wanted to pay the yearly onto it. We had some that were like one-off where they'd pay like 3 to 5 grand a month onto it, where if they just wanted something more hands-on. But our main private client group, if they want to do that, was 24 grand a year.
Plus percentage?
We didn't do percentages on a ton of them because for percentages on coaches we could do. Percentages on e-com was hard because I understood their margins. For their margins and stuff like that, it's just harder for them. Like it's hard to compute like a big e-commerce brand, like how much they actually spend on shipping, fulfillment, and all that on that stuff, right? Especially after
Mhm.
Corona and all that stuff, like when we were doing a lot of it. But for
Yeah.
coaches, it's easier.
Yeah.
Their margins were less. So for coaches, like we would just get like 5% of sales that would come in directly attributed to us on top of our fees. But that was it almost became a little bit harder to manage for some clients. So we had less clients on the percentage. Like we only had a couple that were on like a true percentage, because you'll notice on the percentage size, unless you own the sales process itself, or like you own the
Mhm.
payments or something like
No,
that, it's easy
100%.
for them to, it gets messy. It does get messy
Mhm.
at a certain point, right? So like I tried to stay away from that
Yeah.
model. Like it would be okay to get like a little bit of a percentage, but I just, towards like, once I found that out, I would rather just get them into like paying monthly commitments with us, you know?
Hey guys, just jumping in here to give you a quick word on our sponsor, High Level, before we get back to the interview. If you don't know already, High Level is the top sales and marketing solution for any business, but particularly agency owners or anybody that needs a software product to resell to their existing customer base. It has everything you need to capture, nurture, and close leads for marketing clients. And the best part is High Level believes in not taxing the agencies on its platform, so you can get unlimited clients for one low flat monthly fee. The best features include a CRM, funnel, website and email builders, course hosting platform, robust marketing automation builder, a consolidated chat stream with WhatsApp, email, SMS, Instagram DMs, and Facebook DMs, reputation management, social media posting, tracking and analytics, and so much more. And as if that wasn't enough, High Level is fully white labeled, meaning that you can take the platform and put your own brand on the desktop and mobile app and resell it to your industry for whatever price you want. Essentially, what High Level has done is brought the bar for starting a software company way lower, so normal people like you and I can help our clients with an amazingly robust software without paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in development costs. I am not kidding when I say hands down, High Level is my favorite software of all time and has been integral to my success with my agency. It helped me increase my clients' results and retention, and I use it every single day for my own business. And if you sign up for High Level today, not only will you get a 30-day free trial, which is not available on their website, but you'll get all of the bonuses listed at itskeaton.com/mastermind, which gets you support, templates, and courses to kickstart your high level journey and get those first few clients or scale to your next few clients. If you're already a high level customer, you can also get all of those bonuses by upgrading to the next highest plan underneath my link. Instructions for that are also at itskeaton.com/mastermind. Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. I was thinking about that this morning. Like I was toying around with a private equity agency play. Like you go to these smaller agencies, like you get a portion of it, like you help them grow, and then like you own all like parts of all these agencies. And I'm like, man, it's so freaking complicated. Like,
Yeah. I think,
like,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, like just charging up front, like it kind of makes sense for everybody
Yeah.
because you don't have to go through this lengthy legal process. Like in certain cases, the percentage does make sense if you're
Yeah.
willing to partner more closely with that person and they're willing to partner more closely with you. But
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, like I think on that side, like if we had, like I know people who make a ton off percentages, but they have less clients that come in. It's like
Yeah.
they work
Yeah.
very, like you only need one prime, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
but it's like
Yeah.
they go all into that. They have like a portfolio of 3 to 5 clients that they go all into, versus the demand that I was getting on it. Like with the amount of meetings that I was getting from paid ads and clients that I was getting, I was like, I cannot fulfill percentages on all of you. Like I would
Yeah.
rather just like demonstrate value up front in a 6-week engagement and then just get you into a 12-month engagement where you pay me 2 to 3 grand a month, right? So it was
Yeah.
just easier based on our team.
Okay. And the 2K a month was pretty much just ads.
It would depend, right? So some was straight ads management, but we also had like a fractional CMO offer, right?
Oh, that's good.
So it'd be like we'd come into their business and they would basically get weekly calls with us, and every single week we'd try to figure out like what's 1 to 2 big needle moving things we could help their team implement to make them more money, right?
Mm,
Because a lot of these clients, like they'd have a media buyer already, they'd have an email marketer already, but the thing is like they didn't like they just weren't doing the fundamentals, right? There was money that was left on the table. So we would just have
yeah.
to figure out like where's the biggest drop off points in their sales process and in their ads, and then be like, all right, this week, like based on the data, this is the one thing we got to fix. Let's focus on that, right? And then we'd like
Love it.
task that out to either their media buyer, their copywriter to do that action item, and we just rinse and repeat that process.
Love it. And you're still running that agency, or is it still running without you?
No, it's still running. It's not really running with me. Like I'm not very involved in it right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
at a very small scale. Like we have like 5 core clients that we manage at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I can dive into that too right now. Is in terms of I know I mentioned this earlier onto it, is like right now we're kind of onto like the second phase of things, right? And like finally doubling down on content. But I really scaled down like that agency in this year, right? This year to just like the core clients that we have to kind of work on the next big building, right? To kind of scrape down on.
Love it. Yeah, I want to get into that. I just want to make sure I've covered everything I want to know about this
Yeah.
offer. So that the CMO side, you like, where did you draw the line as to, like, what you would and wouldn't do? Like, you don't actually do
Yeah.
any services, you just advise.
Yeah. So what we tried to stay out of was tech, right?
Okay.
So tech was anything that's copy and offer related and stuff like that and strategic we liked, right? Because it was pretty fast and it was in our area of
Yeah.
expertise. We got bogged down when you actually have to do the tech fulfillment too, right? Like when you have to go into them, go in, like actually install all the sequences for them, build out their funnels and like it just wasn't very scalable on that
Yeah.
side, right? So that's what like the line was tech. Like if it was on
Yeah.
tech, we tried to stay away from the tech.
So what did the team look like, and how did you survive that fast, like
Oh
6
man.
months to 100K?
Yeah, yeah. It was the team structure like at its it was like the sales side was just like we had 4 sales reps because we were getting like 20 to 30 meetings a day from paid ads. Fulfillment side, we had about like 3 client success managers, right? I was there too. Like I would take calls on that. And then we had like some assistants that would help with like just the basics, making sure like things were logged on Monday for fulfillment. Like I think our service, like when something scales like that fast onto it, like I have a video that went out where essentially like to go from like 50K to 150K a month, it only took us 90 days, right? Because with paid ads, it really was just getting more sales reps and spending more on paid ads, right? Like
Yeah.
that's all the equation was. But yeah, like the team structure on that side was that's all we need. It was like like 4 sales reps to basically take the inbound requests that were coming in, and then on the delivery side, we had about 4 client success managers and me to manage the clients that were coming. And I think like in hindsight, like how I would have done things is I think at that point when we had like we didn't survive that as well as we should have, right? Like that was a lot of demand that was coming in, and
Mhm.
like we were drinking out of a fire hose. Like we were just like, whoa, like there's so much coming, and that's like that would probably be the advantage of like if I just niche down to like one niche and it was like a very replicatable process every single time. Like I think if like an agency just wants to get to like 10 50K a month or whatever their goal is, like if they just focused on like maybe like one very specific niche and like had a very repeatable process, probably less of a
100%.
headache, right? Like than doing that. But yeah, like that was what the fulfillment structure looked like at that point.
Okay. And the client success managers would actually run the ads and interface with the clients?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we'd have like one guy that would primarily run the ads, right? For the accounts that we'd manage. And then like we'd
Yeah.
have 2 client success managers that would like be on calls with them. And then every single
Okay.
week we'd like hop on a call to review all like any of the ad accounts that were going, see which problems that they were hoping, and then kind of like figuring out action plans together to fix them. Right. So it was like that was like the thing that we were doing. And I think part of the problem too is we were offering so much at a time that we were doing for some of these clients. Like that line, like it was one of those lessons that that you find out after that, like if you could tell like your younger self, it's like set better expectations with clients. Like if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
like expectations are, I think, are 90%, not 90, but it is a big, like the expectations you set with your client will determine how much of a pain in the ass everything is, right?
Yeah.
uh
100%.
yeah, right. So I mean you get it, right? So it's like on that side, like we were just saying yes to a lot of requests and just taking on so many different things, because what we realize is with the business that we took on with our skill sets, there's so much stuff you could do to make them a lot of money. The hard thing is discerning which one you're going to focus on. And then like there's certain times where we'd give something to a client. We're like, hey, this week I want you to implement this follow-up sequence to your leads, write this and get this done. And they would be like a week in and they just wouldn't do it. And we just get frustrated. So
Yeah.
we're like, all right, let's just freaking do it. Like I couldn't, that was like my own internal thing. Like I could not stand if like a client didn't get a result on that. Like, like it was like and that was maybe a mental barrier that I need to just solve, is like to be okay with some people if they don't do the work, right? But
Yeah.
like I would like overstep and be like, all right, let's just do it anyways to get them it. But then when you have that volume of clients and you have like 4 client success managers that all have like 20 plus projects in their queue to do, like them doing that one extra step is like a trickle down effect that affects everything
Yeah.
else, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay. So the operations weren't as streamlined as the sales process, let's
no,
say.
no, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Right. Like the marketing and the sales process was very
Yeah.
dialed in versus the fulfillment side of things. Like in terms of it being like clients were getting results, but in terms of it being like scalable, like
Mhm.
would a company, would someone come up to us, look at our business and be like, let's buy this? Fuck no. Like they would look at that and be like, dude, this thing is, what the hell is
Yeah.
going on here? Right.
Yeah.
Like there's no true infrastructure or systems to make this like as repeatable as possible. Right. And I think that was like the inefficiency in that.
Got it. So you scaled from 0 to 100K a month in 6 months.
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
It depends which stage I'm in, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
for me, like what I'm optimizing for right now is, I mean, I want to be a billionaire, right? Like it's not going to happen now. Like it's going to happen by, I wrote, I want to be 35 by the time that happens, right? So it's probably going to take longer than that, right? So like that season that I'm in, like I just love business. Like I want to build something really big, really incredible. And like in order to do that, I want to have something that has a lot of leverage that gets a consistent outcome every single time. I don't know what that opportunity is just yet, but that's like where I'm trying to go because I have time on my side, as in I'm still relatively young. If I would just wanted like cash flow and wanted to like just have an agency, like, you know, and I didn't have that big moonshot, then yes, I would start my agency again. But where I'm at right now, like I want to spend like this 25 to 35 period where I'm young and I have energy onto the next moonshot. And I know like for me to build a big $1 billion company, like I'm probably not going to do that with an agency. But if my goal was just getting to 100K a month again, it's not that hard with an agency. Like I would just streamline my operations more, say no to like the 30% of clients that cause 80% of the headaches, and then just streamline that. Right.
Yeah. But would you do it that fast?
Oh, that fast. Oh, jeez. See, that's the thing with paid ads, right? Paid ads is have you ran ads for your own agency?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So like with paid ads, it's kind of like when you pick the lock, meaning like we have the saying with paid ads, it's picking the lock. It's when you get your offer, your funnel, and your ads dialed in. Like when those three things come together, it's just like this nuclear bomb where it's just like you just ramp it. Like I took it from like $300 a day to $3,000 a day in ad spend in under 60 days. Like it was just absurd how fast you could put money into that machine. So like that, I would not have scaled that fast again, right? I would have slowed down and been like, okay, like let's hire one sales rep instead of four, right? Let's focus on fulfillment first on like this little group of people and then start scaling the fire, right? Because like in hindsight, there's a great thing from, I'm sure you know Alex, right? Like Hermosi, dude, it's crushing it. And he was basically saying like I would market until I could get customers coming in and then continuously work on that feedback loop until nobody left, right? Like until that was very dialed in. And then I would like start marketing really heavily versus we did it in the inverse, right? We marketed to get sales and customers that were coming in. And it was just like, and the other thing too is when you have 50 grand a month in payroll that's coming in, like you can't just stop the ship, right? Like you have a lot of momentum that's coming in, and like I can't just, I mean I could, but I didn't have the balls to do that, right? Which what was to just slow down the ship because the foundations in which I built it on, like there's a big staff, right, that came in. So like you end up in this loop of selling to get them in, right?
Got it. Thanks for being candid about that. I appreciate it because
Yeah,
it's something every agency owner goes through. And either on one side feeling like, oh, I'm scaling too slow, like I should be going faster. And then the minute they go a little bit faster, they're like, oh my gosh, I should be going slower.
Yeah, it's a loop.
But it's super common. Yeah. So tell us what's next.
Yeah. So what's next? Like part of the answer is like I don't really know what's next, right? In terms of the next time horizon. What I do know, like what I'm focusing on heavily right now is just content. Like what I really want to focus on is building like the biggest base of agency owners right now, like an audience that we own that we have affinity to just figure out what is the biggest problem that they're solving that's underserved that we can build that moonshot around, you know, like not trying to build like the next go high level or anything like that, but what is like a problem that a lot of agency owners are facing that we can create a product around to help solve, because we have cash flow. It's just like figuring out what is the next opportunity vehicle that kind of ticks the boxes in our mind, that's like can get a repeatable outcome every single time, has a big TAM, is very scalable, and clients never stop buying it. If we can kind of figure that out, and then we have time on our side, like there's no way like over a long enough time horizon we don't crack a bill, right? So that's like the next step that we're working on, is just like getting that, because I'm very good at direct response, but I definitely do think like with branding and stuff, like my YouTube has no views whatsoever, and already that we're getting about like 1 to 2 opt-ins a day to our email list that are coming in from our videos, and like and I'm just like, wow, like this is easy mode. It's just I need to get a bigger audience that's coming in, right? And like from there, I can really figure out like, okay, what's the next big play, right? So that's the next kind of thing. It's a long-term play because I think it's probably going to take about 5 years for just to build like a decent sized audience, but it compounds over time, right? I want to figure out something that compounds in nature. And I think like figuring out like audience compounds in nature. And if I can figure out the product that also compounds in nature, and then I have time with me on my side, it's just like a holy trifecta, right? To win.
Cool. Love it. So just listening to the audience for now and providing value, and then you'll build the the next thing.
Yeah, but build it right, like the right vehicle, right? Like one that
Mhm.
you kind of like the lessons that I learned from my agency, like you kind of dove into, but doing it right, like for this product, right? Like obsessing over delivery and product and like not taking on hundreds of people until we're like, okay, like this ticks the boxes, right? Because with
Yeah.
agency,
Yeah.
like agencies are the easy, not the easy, maybe there's things I don't know, but I think it's pretty freaking easy to get to 10K a month or 50K a month in an agency if you know the fundamentals. Like,
Yeah.
if you know how to create an offer and you know how to sell and you know how to work leads and be consistent, like you can get to 10K a month really easily on an agency, right? The thing is, it's like, it's just harder to scale. Like it's just a harder model to scale on that
Yeah.
side. Like there's only a handful of agency owners that have really scaled agencies to like pretty big levels, right?
Yeah.
Um, so those are the downsides with it. But yeah, just trying to figure out on like the next, like the bigger opportunity to kind of go after in this season. But if that doesn't work, like I'm going right back to an agency because I know that model. Yeah.
No, I love it. So what ideas do you have so far?
For like the next big model.
Yeah, for what you might sell, if you can say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What I do think though is what I have a hunch on is something around delivery, something around like getting better results for because that advantage that we had truly was that we knew how to generate money out of thin air for businesses. Like it was like alchemy.
Mhm.
Like we could go into a business and pull a few levers and make the money. And because of that, like we never had to struggle about clients. Like I think if agency owners kind of adopted the mindset of instead of like trying to get clients, you just figure out how your product can pay you in advance. Like you can go to a business and just like make them money out of thin air. Like you're never gonna have
Mhm.
to go hungry because there's an endless supply of business owners that want that. Um,
Yeah.
but like I think it might be something around delivery, like figuring out ways to, I don't know, like retain clients for longer, communicate better with them. Might be something in terms of getting more clients. I don't really know. It just depends on what's underserved and what's not being attacked. And I don't have enough data just yet. But I know if I have thousands of agency owners who are all complaining about the same thing that's not being answered, I'll be like, okay, well, I think I know which direction to go in.
Yeah. Okay. But probably like software, not coaching or not a
I
community
don't
around that.
I don't know. Like I don't want to say like it's gonna be it's gonna be a software or something like that. You know,
Mhm.
software is a different beast, right? Like to do that. If software, like I'm gonna have to get like a CTO or someone who understands that, right? To build that out. But you know, it might be media. It might be media, right? Like just maybe having a community or something. But I think long term, I do want it to like I think with coaching and stuff like that, it's great, but like not everyone can get the same result every single time. Like they just
Mhm.
can't. Like not with coaching.
Yeah.
I don't at least I haven't met someone because it's when you're dealing with humans to get a
Yeah.
certain outcome and there's certain things that are outside of your control. Like if like the big brands that I really liked that I studied is like they truly can get the same outcome every single time. It's like
Mhm.
client comes in, client gets the same thing. And it's harder to do that with services. So, you know, ideally over time, if I could, I don't know if it's software, I don't know what it is, but something like it just has to tick those boxes that I was talking about earlier. It's like gets the
Got
same
it.
outcome every single time. Clients never stop buying it. If it meets those two criteria, like I'm into that vehicle. So, yeah.
Yeah. But is it possible? I've thought about this a lot because
Yeah.
especially with like all the guarantees floating around
Right.
since the purple book came
Purple
out.
book. 100%. Right.
It's like okay, you can't guarantee that. You can't uh like obviously if it's 30K in a year and like
Right.
you're gonna send emails to somebody, like
Yeah.
looking at that you're like, okay, you'd be stupid not to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But most of the guarantees floating around are not that. It's like, hey, you're a beginner, I'm gonna be able to get you 5 clients no matter what. I'm like,
Yep. In 90 days. Don't
I
forget the 90 days, man. From
yeah,
someone who's
yeah.
never done it. From someone who's never done it on top of it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like the reason that the results vary so much is it's honestly sales ability. Like people
Right.
come in and they can sell, they've had a sales job for 3 years, like they're fine. They can't sell. I'm sorry, man. There's not a ton I can do.
Right.
Um,
And their mind.
and yeah, and it's funny because so it's the mind, it's the sales ability, but then on the back end for retention, it's results. It's also communication. It's
Right.
being able to set those expectations, like give good customer service. But when it comes to marketing, do you think that there is a model you could push out there that gets everybody the same result every single time?
Yeah. This is one of those things that like, I could talk about this all day, right? Like it's one of I think when you kind of have a little bit of success with your agency and you figure out like, okay, you're never gonna go hungry, like you know you can grow an
Mm,
agency and get cash flow. The thing that's on your mind actually is like, how do I put this in together for a real opportunity? Right.
yeah,
Like, right. And like that's what I've
100%.
noticed with a lot of agency owners who've like done really well in their agency. That's what they're thinking about. They're like, how do I
Mhm,
put this skill set into a big vehicle?
mhm,
And what I noticed is with a lot of companies that like get the same outcome every single time, they're not going for home runs. They're not trying to take a business from 0 to 10K a month. They're like, how can I get a 10% increase in a business every single time that's repeatable? Or how do like
mm,
it's like these little micro home runs, right?
nice.
Like that's like if you look at a lot of like B2B softwares that are out there, or
Mm,
even if you look at things like Loom, right? Like
yeah,
Loom, like it's you're not gonna double your business with Loom, right? But you get the same thing. You can record a video and you can shoot it. All right.
yeah,
You look at Hyros, right? They sold for 100 mil, right? It's just like this is the same outcome every single time. You can't see your ad data. Now you can see your ad data that's coming in, right? It's just like those are the
yeah,
things that are trying to figure out. It's like, how do you find like that's what I'm trying to look at. It's like what is one inefficiency that everyone in this niche is having that we can streamline and put a process in, but also like ideally is a money problem that it solves, right? Because like
yeah,
Hyros did it really well because like if they can get a 10% of it, like increase in gain from a business that's spending 50 100 grand a month plus an ad spend like that, they instantly make a ton of money onto that, right? So
yeah,
that's what I'm trying to figure out is like those companies that really crush it or like that are $1 billion valuations that like have it's like a single outcome that they deliver every single time, right? It's like a micro
yeah,
thing. It's not getting them to 10 grand a month in 90 days because that's pretty hard, right? For people to
yeah.
go through.
Cool. I have one more question, then we'll close
Yeah.
out here. I've been thinking about similar idea to yours, like this repeatable process, but instead, like convenience for people that convenience is more profitable for than non-convenience, if that makes sense. So
Give me an example.
like streamlining things for rich people essentially. So like
Right.
I look at a plane ticket, for example, and I'm like, objectively, like it's not worth it to me to fly here, 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 even though it's 3 times cheaper than this $1,000 ticket.
You're right.
Like my mood's gonna get shot. I'm not gonna have as much time to work on what I need to. Like it's not worth it. But is it actually worth 3 times as much? Like this ticket, the $300 ticket versus the $1,000 ticket?
Right.
I guess it is because I value the convenience over my money in that case.
Right.
Same thing with Loom. Like forever, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I was too cheap for Loom. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll just do the free plan, whatever. And then one day I was just like, whatever, I make enough money, like I'm gonna
Right.
get Loom, and it saves me so much time because it just
Yeah.
uploads directly. It automatically copies the link. I send it.
Yep.
It probably saves me 10 minutes a day.
Right.
Totally worth $10 a month or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And so basically taking people that know what their hourly rate is and putting something in front of them that is like this no brainer
Oh yeah.
hourly rate exchange,
Yep.
but it's technically really expensive and the margin's just insane
Yeah.
because, you
Yeah,
know,
that's that you can definitely go that route, man, because it's like if you I mean technically if you could save everyone in the world like freaking 10 minutes a day, people would pay exchange some money for that, right? And I
yeah.
think like the examples in terms of that I was giving over like an inefficiency in terms of revenue, that was more like a B2B example, right? For there.
Hmm.
But like if you could find a way to save time for these people, right? Or like that would be huge, right? Like that there's I
Hmm.
think those are the things at least for those big moonshot things, it's like you kind of need a bigger TAM, right?
Yeah.
Right? So you need to be thinking through things that like like either it's like a efficiency with time or an efficiency in terms of revenue, but it's like a smaller outcome, right? It's not like
Yeah.
this big stick that happens every single time, but cracking it is, I
Mm.
guess, is easier said than done.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. Another example, robot vacuums. Those things are insanely expensive. They sell like $1,500 robot vacuums now.
The
Did you
things
know
like
that?
clean up the fur in the house, or you
Yeah.
just damn it's expensive.
Yeah. They're like
Yeah,
they go up to 1,500. So it's like a robot
yeah,
vacuum and a mop.
yeah,
But you do the math for a rich person is like, yeah, it's totally worth it. Like I don't have to have the cleaner come over who's going to be way more
yeah.
expensive, and it's done every day instead of every week or
Right.
however often they have their cleaner come, right? And it goes, not only does it clean your floor, but it goes and it self empties. So all you have to do is take the trash out once a week.
Yep.
And like it's insane. So I like the criteria you have, and I think it goes back to how you said you picked your niche. Like I don't care who they are, I just need them to be doing this much. I need them to be spending this much on ads,
Yeah.
because if they're doing that, I know I can fix their problem.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I'm pumped, man. I'm excited. Yeah, this conversation gets me hyped, dude. Like it gets me
Yeah,
excited.
same. Okay, let's close out with your final advice to agency owners nowadays. Your story is unique, I think, in your confidence and enthusiasm. Like that's one of your superpowers, I would say. Just having talked
Appreciate
to
it.
you for an hour here. But maybe for someone that doesn't feel that, they know they want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't feel like they have the same personality as you.
Yeah.
Feel like they're struggling to get that first client. Like, how do they break out of those mental change that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah. I would say the biggest advice that I could give is in the beginning, if you're struggling to get clients, like make the barrier of entry for you to get in the game as low as possible. Like I think the one thing that I did right is I worked for free in the beginning because I knew if I did that enough, I could at least learn the ropes. Because the biggest reason if you're not getting clients, or you're not successful in your agency right now, like you haven't gotten your first 5 clients, is either you're trying to charge up front and you don't have, like, it is so hard to sell high ticket if you don't have confidence in what the hell you're gonna do. Like it's like pushing a rock up a hill, right? Like I couldn't do that. Like I did not have it in me to like freaking charge 2 5 grand or whatever it is for something that I didn't know how to deliver on. Right. So like the advice that I would kind of give to agency owners is, if in the beginning, make the barrier of entry very easy for you to get experience, whether it's working for free with clients to get your foot in the door until you can deliver results. Because the sooner you know you can deliver results, the only thing you got to focus on after that, at least up until like 100K per month, until everything starts breaking and then you need to work on operations, is you just need to get clients after that. Like once you know you can deliver results, you can then just focus on getting clients, right? So focus on making the like as easy as possible for you to get in the game. And then I would say just understand that agency, all it really comes down to is selling money at a discount. The better you are at just being able to go into a business and what you can do for them is in far access to your fee, and you can prove that, focus on that, right? Like that's what I did right. I
Yeah.
knew I could go into, like, had that insight early. And once I had that insight, it was easy to get clients. And if I had to
Yeah.
start from scratch, I would have just done, like, I'd have started working for free sooner, and I would have figured out how I could sell money at a discount. Like if I did that in 12 months, I could get back to 100K a month the next year after that. It's
Yeah.
easy when you focus it on that way.
I love it. And I think the biggest thing I took from you is go to the end of the customer journey. Like what's the point in doing all this cold traffic? Like
Right.
when you could just go in, earn their trust with the database reactivation campaign would be what we call it
Right.
in local, but essentially the same thing for coaches or whoever.
Yeah.
And yeah, just work with people that have all the pieces in place except the one thing that you're going to install, and
Yeah.
then capture a bit of that upside. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Like if they do that, they're off to the races. If they just focus on getting their foot in the door with something that gives them like big fast value and you gain their trust, it's so easy to upsell them into the thing that they want after that. Like that was like that big unlock for me. It's like, all right, come in for 6 weeks, let me make you some money. Then I gain their trust, and then it's so easy to get them in reoccurring from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Thanks, Tisu. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it was great.
Everybody go check out his channel. It is slowly growing, but it's going to be faster growing after this podcast. So much value.
Appreciate it,
Appreciate it,
man.
man.
Sweet.